Before we get started, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let us explain.
Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast straight from your phone or computer.
When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more.
It is everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
And best of all, Anchor is totally free.
Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to episode 8 of Searching for MacGuffin with your host, George,
Gabe,
And Link.
and today's topic is Enter the Snyderverse.
Yes, the Spider-Verse.
No, Link, the Snyderverse.
That's not the verse I want to enter.
Well,
Ancient Lamentations plays in the background.
yes. For those uninitiated, what is the Snyderverse?
The Snyderverse, I guess, could be defined as the movies that Zack Snyder, director, has contributed to the DC Extended Universe. And for us, I think we've kind of classifying also the movies that have been influenced and kind of affected by the movies that he's created.
The Snyderverse is the darkest timeline in community, and we're currently living in it. Because someone thought it was a good idea to give Scott Snyder.
No, yeah, we're talking about Zack Snyder.
Someone's like, I love Scott Snyder, the comic book author.
Oh,
But someone gave... Which Snyder is it again?
Zack Snyder.
Someone thought it was a good idea to give Zack Snyder a universe. A DCU.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because
And that's why it's the darkest timeline for me.
Yeah, Snyder himself only really directs the Superman movies and then Justice League, which is kind of like an extension of that. But it's funny, Link's reaction to the Snyderverse. I guess we need like a warning at the top of this episode. I don't know, Gabriel?
That's true. I am personally not a fan of the Snyderverse.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are, it's different opinions here. You get me? I am not a fan of it. But that's just me.
yeah, I think we just got to preface it with these are just our opinions, and some people may not agree with them. But it's something that I guess has gotten us, like the three of us, to talk about a lot over the years, and it's something we feel like we want to share.
It's also like critical. It's important. Like if you're in this fandom sphere, there's no way around these movies.
Exactly, yeah.
They're kind of central to like DC's cinematic narratives. I'm gonna try to be as positive as possible. It's funny because we always try to have like kind of like a balanced presentation here, but when we were talking about this, there's like full disclosure. I don't think any of us are like real fans of this take on the DC characters.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, not me.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's there's a number of things. I think personally for me, I think Zack can be kind of overindulgent in his films. He can be kind of, I don't know. Let's say, how would you say it? I don't want to be mean, but it's like he's kind of full of himself in some of these films.
Okay.
Like Zack Snyder's Justice League. There was a lot of hype around that one, and I think we'll get into it later.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But I think that one was just, and in other instances as well, where he kind of just, the films insist upon themselves, and I'm kind of just like, I don't know how I feel about it. Oh, I do know how I feel about it. I'm just trying to be as nice as possible.
I just personally don't like the creative licenses that
Yeah.
he's taken specifically with Batman. Ben Affleck shouldn't be Batman, but he's Batman. No, but the fact that he makes Batman, like Batman uses a gun, like this isn't Fortnite. There's no reason why Batman should be using guns.
Right. So
Stuff like that I don't like. The small things like that bother me. Also, I'm just not a fan of his style of filmmaking.
Yeah.
But that's another thing.
yeah, I guess we should probably start there. In order to understand the Snyderverse, you kind of have to understand Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. And it's not Zack Snyder the person, because like at the end of the day, we don't really know Zack Snyder.
Yeah, he might be
the
a cool person.
Well, I mean, everything that we know so far, he seems to be a pretty like humble, down to earth guy.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty passionate guy, which is why he goes hard in these films. I think I personally just don't agree with the takes that he has and some of the choices. But I mean, obviously that has to be said. Like, he seems like he really does care about what he does. Like like from interviews and articles that I've read, he seems to be like he really does want to do a good job, and he considers himself a fan. And I mean it's not easy to make a movie. It really isn't. It really isn't, and it's tough work. And I mean, kudos to him for being able to take on such endeavors. I think it's just a matter of difference of opinion, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, because at the end of the day, like in fandom, we like to sit back and criticize, and really that's what we're supposed to do, right? We're supposed to consume. We're the consumer, and we're gonna have feelings about that consumption. But yeah, this work is really, really hard, and sometimes we think, oh, we could do better, but really, you know, many of us probably can't, because the all the requirements and or demands of like a project of this size, like the ones that he does.
No, yeah, for sure. And I mean, he has a kind of like a good track record at first. Like,
yeah.
When you start off, it's not bad. Obviously, Dawn of the Dead, which I mean, truth be told, I haven't seen that film in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I saw it when it came out, and I haven't seen it again.
And that was like his like real breakthrough.
Yeah.
And then what did he have, like 300, as well as Watchmen?
Yeah. So that's funny, because it's what you say, like Dawn of the Dead, I remember enjoying it, but I don't really remember what, because sometimes you go into a film and you're like cold. Like we didn't know who Zack Snyder was, or at least I didn't at the time. And it's just a movie and I evaluate it. But then these people, they become like icons, right? They have like an identity to us. And then we're seeing the next one like, oh, this is a Snyder film. And it's like, it's under the different lens of like, you're not just evaluating the film, but you're evaluating the filmmaking process, which sometimes gives them equity, and sometimes it's a detriment, because we're like, you know, we start to nitpick or look for patterns.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And I don't know, I feel like I remember watching 300 as a kid. And I was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I think it was when it came out, when it released, it was pretty big. Like, it kind of took over. People were doing the chants, and people were saying the lines, and
people were getting 6-packs.
that happened? Yeah. Okay. I remember the memes before memes. Like, I remember like a lot of the lines and you know, the images, the imagery before it had really like taken off.
And I feel like it really popularized the story of the 300 Spartans, which I mean, it was a famous story before, but I feel like it really took a place in like modern culture.
It definitely like recontextualized it for like a whole generation that probably hadn't heard of the story. It might not have.
No, for sure. Like, I think the only reason I had known of that story is because I had watched the old movie, The 300 Spartans, and then it was also really deep into Halo.
Yeah.
Like, they brought a bunch of stuff in from, they took a lot of the, I guess, philosophy with training and stuff like that. But until then, like, it wasn't like such a big deal. And then 300 drops, and I mean, it catches on fire. People pretty crazy about it at the time. And I think that was the first time I kind of got scolded for watching an R-rated movie.
Yeah. Well, especially with the inclusions that Snyder, like the additions that he provided.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Not Scott.
No, not. It's Zach. It's definitely Zach we're talking about.
Yeah, I was introduced to. I didn't watch Dawn of the Dead? Yeah,
Dawn of the Dead, right?
Which sounds like a Edgar Wright movie. I didn't watch that one, but I watched 300, and I was as a child, and then I was just impressed. Like, I thought that was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and you know, it's based off of a Frank Miller comic graphic novel. And this is probably the second. Yeah, this is the first time he does a Frank Miller novel, and then he does Batman versus Superman, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know why someone thought it was a good idea to give him rights to Frank Miller.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. Like,
but he does a good job.
300 is a good movie, yeah.
So I thought, if he's able to do a good movie there, then maybe we can adapt this one, and okay, that makes sense. But I mean, his first two movies I watched by him, they weren't bad. Like 300 was great.
Yeah.
Watchmen, I remember watching it in theaters. Not much, but then the director's cut is the one that is really awesome, good, right?
Yeah. I mean, at least I think so. So with 300, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, I actually went out of the trouble. Oh, they're making a 300 movie. Okay, it's Frank Miller. I hadn't read 300 at the time, so I bought it, read it, loved it, and then I went in with that expectation. And I remember loving everything that was from the graphic novel, and it was basically like a page for page adaptation. This would be for me the real introduction to the slow motion, because it's like the falling off a cliff and it slowly, and it's like a comic book panel come to light, that like almost sepia tone, like that golden brownish, filter that he uses, and it just feels like the book. And then I remember him adding like some of the more politics driven / forced confrontation, so to speak, to it. And I was like, oh, this is weird. This is like, it felt a little out of place to me, but then I also understand you had to add something. Yeah, because the book is just way too short for a movie, and it's almost like you're setting up to fail, because whenever you add anything, it's gonna feel like you're like inserting it into like a very cohesive narrative. So it got a pass for me, because the movie overall is really good. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while.
So I don't really know if it stands the test of time, and I kind of suspect it doesn't. Like, I probably won't love it as I did at the time.
Yeah.
But I still think it was a really good movie, and that kind of carried over to Watchmen, like you mentioned. So for me, Watchmen, it was like, it was good. Like, it was fine, really, in the theater. I know a lot of people don't like it, and I totally understand why. For me, it was fine, but then, like you said, what's known as the ultimate cut is not just the director's cut, but it's also the Black Freighter, which is the story within the story that they made like an animated movie for, and then intersplicing that into the movie. And then I feel like it really captured more of the tone of what the graphic novel is. We haven't really talked much about Watchmen as a book here, right?
No.
Right.
I've tried reading it.
Oh, you haven't read
You
it?
haven't read it?
I just tried. I'm like, okay.
Okay. What were your thoughts on Watchmen?
Well, the movie was, that's kind of like what had got me to read the graphic novel. Was the movie, and I think I had asked, I think it was you or your brother, like kind of, like, is this based on something? And they're like, yeah, it's based on the graphic novel. And so you guys owned it, and I decided to read it, check it out, and I really enjoyed it. I was really confused at some parts, because there were some mature themes that, like, as a kid, like, I just, obviously it wasn't gonna be
right.
Yeah, that's why I didn't like. I'm like, I was a child. I was a kid reading it.
Right. What were you, like, teens, right?
Yeah,
at the
like
time? Yeah.
13. I read it. And I was tried reading. I'm like, okay, this doesn't catch my attention. And then there's portions of it where it's a book. It's not like graphic novel.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? It's not for me, so I dropped it.
Yeah, there were just a lot of themes that I was kind of like, do I really understand this? Do I really get this? But I mean, there were also things that I learned. Like, it made me look up certain aspects, and I think overall, like, I enjoyed it. And because at first I was really confused about the whole like the Black Freighter, being part of it, like, and how it coincides. And then also I was pretty confused at the ending.
Yes. Okay. So the ending. So for me, and not to any spoilers, but I mean, most people probably have read this book, or they wouldn't be listening to this, all like 12 of you.
So if not, spoiler alert.
So, but basically those parts that you mentioned, Link, like the book parts, I remember at that time I was lazy, but like I was going to read them because obviously they're part of the book. But I was like, oh, these are, what is this here for? Like, it seems like outside of the narrative. But having then gone back as I was older and rereading the book, it's almost like that ending that to me makes no sense, or like comes out of nowhere. It's kind of like a Deus Ex Machina for me. Like, it's actually all built through those narrative parts, through the articles and the dossiers and all that stuff. Yeah. Like, the clues are there, and a lot of it is in the text, and you just don't see it coming if you kind of gloss over that stuff or even skip it. Because I do know some people who legitimately don't even read that like extra material in the book, but it's definitely essential. I'm gonna stop and give like Snyder a positive here. So far, we've been through 2 of his movies before he even gets to DCEU, and he's driving us to the comic books. He's driving us to the graphic novels. Yeah. We might not have read 300, or Watchmen if it wasn't for Snyder's work in film. And sometimes I think we take that for granted. Sometimes they make these adaptations, or I guess, adaptations. Some direct, some, interpretations. But oftentimes it drives people to the original narratives. And like, that's always a net positive for me.
I mean, I agree. That's a really good point that you bring up, where it's like, I mean, he has these installments, which, I mean, I think we can all agree the ultimate cut is better than theatrical, and it's kind of like it's a test to him where it's like he can have a vision and he can make it. He can have themes and devices that are actually really good. They may not all fit like what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of carries over into what becomes the DCEU. I think is how it transfers over. Is that sometimes it kind of comes over as overindulgence.
Just to wrap up on Watchmen, I think that the problem with Watchmen is sometimes missteps. It's almost like you, and I hate to get into his mind or like put words in his mouth or thoughts, but it's almost like you read the book, liked it, but didn't fully understand what makes the book good, and like he thought it was a good idea for Ozymandias to like have nipples on his suit, or like he's just tonally deaf sometimes with his song choices, or like his framing of like characters. Like there's scenes that are come off comical. Yeah. And it's not just that they're not comical in the story, but he's also not trying to make them comical. We're not laughing with the film. We're kind of laughing at the film, right?
We're talking about the sex scene?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's one good example.
Oh, yes. Actually,
yeah, because it's in the book. It's exactly how it is in the book.
Yeah, well, exactly how it is in the book. Like what I'm talking about is like tonally. Yeah, it's not exact. It's almost like you're doing it exactly as it is in the book, but completely not anything. Like you don't get the same emotional. And it's like sometimes like I don't know why this always sticks in my brain. Like there's a conversation between Night Owl and Rorschach, like by the owl plane thing, and it was just like it just looked funny, like two guys in suits like just talking. And it was like it's almost like that scene in Spider-Man where like the Goblin like leans up against the wall to talk to Peter, and like his whole head is not moving, and it's like we're just seeing like an inanimate Goblin costume talking to Peter while Peter's like masked, so it's just like no facial emotions, like no, we just getting vocal range with two like still figures, and that kind of stuff happens. I remember being an apologist for the ending at the time when like I was probably like collegiate age, like because he changes the ending of the novel because of that same thing that like Gabriel said when he read. He's like just confused, and he thought audiences would be confused, and I kind of defended it because I was like, yeah, this wouldn't work, it doesn't make sense. But then like I grew older and rewatched it, and I was like, oh, but the ending he went with doesn't like makes less sense. It doesn't fit the theme. And then they made the Watchmen show. Have you seen that, Link?
I have not watched it.
You've seen it, right?
Seen it, yes.
But is a show based off of the graphic novel, or is it based off of the comic books that came out?
Yeah, it's based on the graphic novel, so it's like a sequel to the original graphic novel. But if you like watch the movie, you could jump right into the series, except for that ending.
Except for the ending.
Because the ending to the novel is critical to the series, and it's absent from the film. And that kind of like was like a sucker punch to me. Like it's like, oh, the movies were in more now, because it's like
they're kind of invalidated because it's such a huge point, like it's such a big point in the show, of the ending that happens in the book, that it's kind of like we're gonna slap this movie in the face, like whatever. We're moving forward.
So the Watchmen show on HBO.
Yes,
it's part of the graphic novel.
Yeah, it's a sequel to the graphic novel.
But what's his name? Alan Moore did not write this.
Right, because Alan Moore, that's it. He doesn't own the characters. He doesn't own.
DC owns the characters.
Right. So they were basically like, do another Watchmen, and no, do another Watchmen, no. And after a couple of decades, they're like, you know what? We own these characters. Like, we're just gonna do a bunch of Watchmen. Yeah, right. So it's like Lindelof, right? Damon, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. He does the series, and then I think you were kind of alluding to the before Watchmen comics.
Before Watchmen comics.
Yeah, this series doesn't consider, like, it doesn't take any of those things into effect.
Okay.
Like, they're all quote unquote canon. We know that DC would then like tie in the button and like tie in the regular DC universe with the Watchmen universe and things like that. But like they kind of all like exist like autonomously.
Okay.
So it's a sequel to the graphic novel and nothing else. It doesn't keep anything else like in mind. So that was our deep dive in Watchmen that sort of kind of has nothing to do with Zack Snyder, but it does, because it kind of like sets the tone for the direction. They seem to be happy with it, right? They made a lot of money. I think they made a lot of money over time, like double dipping and triple dipping with that movie, that they saw profitability there. And then they handed him the reins to the DCEU, sort of, kind of, because it wasn't really meant to be a DCEU at first, right?
I think that's what they had in mind. It's probably not what they said up front, but I think that's kind of what they had in mind.
Mhm.
Obviously, with the success that Marvel had, and I mean they have these great characters. Let's give this to somebody, see what he can do with it, and I guess move forward from there. But yeah, I mean we'll discuss about how that turned out.
Okay, so let's start with Man of Steel. That's his first film, right? What was your experience with Man of Steel?
I think the parts I liked the most about Man of Steel were probably all the Christopher Nolan parts. And I don't know which part Christopher Nolan helped make,
Uh-huh.
but I'm pretty sure all the parts that I liked were done by Christopher Nolan
Well,
or his brother.
yeah. This was kind of like an extension. They really wanted it to be an extension of like the Dark Knight movies.
Yeah.
But like Nolan was like, I'll do a Superman movie. And they're like, and then we're gonna connect it to the Dark Knight, right? I'll do a Superman movie. And then we cross them over with the Dark Knight, right? I'll do a Superman movie. But so he produces it, and then his brother writes it, co-writes it, right, with Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Snyder's the one who's actually directing.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of feel like, and again, what you just said, we create these like narratives in our minds about like who does what. But when the movie's slow and like character building, we're like, oh, this is the Nolans.
Yeah, this is Jonathan Nolan right here.
Yeah, and then when like Zod and Superman punch each other through buildings for like 20 minutes straight, we're like, oh, this is Zack Snyder.
Zack.
Right? And that movie didn't get like a great reception from people.
Mediocre, right? Nothing.
Yeah, I didn't even watch it in theaters because
Really?
Yeah, because of like people were like really indifferent about it, or like obviously people were like upset, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess I'll check it out whenever I check it out. Which also happened with another movie, which happened with me with Guardians.
Really?
Which I was kind of upset about when I actually saw it. Because I was like, man, this is actually really good.
Wait, who had bad things to say about Guardians?
Guardians of the Galaxy?
No. I meant to say like how I didn't watch it in theaters. I just passed.
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was confused. I mean, I
thought you meant
wasn't.
the other Guardians.
I wasn't sure yet because since we're talking about Zack Snyder, he did
the
that owl
owl
movie,
movie, yeah.
right? Guardians.
Oh, that movie's fantastic.
Guardians. Are you serious?
We should have done this whole thing.
Guardians of the Howl.
Guardians of Calhoun.
Howl.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
The,
I don't know
okay,
where I was
the
going.
legend. No, it's like Guardians: The Legend of Calhoun.
The Legend of Owls.
We just said the name of the movie wrong, like 4 to 5 times, different times.
The only way to fix this is to have a Snyder marathon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll watch the Owl movie at least. No, okay. But anyways, so Man of Steel. I remember my experience with Man of Steel is I was in Spain. I was traveling, and I remember being like, "No, there's a new Superman movie, and we only get one of these like every 15 years or something." Like I'm gonna watch the new Superman. So I saw it in like Catalan. It wasn't actually in Catalan. It was more like Spanish actors with Spanish accents. So usually if you like watch Spanish dubs, they're like Mexican actors, and it's like the same 6 Mexican actors.
Yeah.
But this was definitely Spanish actors. I loved it. I loved it in Spanish. Came back home. Everybody apparently hated it. I watched it. I watched it in English. I thought it was all right the second time. Like I liked it.
It was all right. There was nothing special about it. You get me? Like,
yeah.
It wasn't the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It had elements of it, like the whole. And like I said, I don't know which part is the Jonathan Nolan part, but it kind of like, okay, this is the parts I like. This is what reminds me of the Dark Knight. I like this. And then after everything else, like, okay.
I think there was something special about it. I really love the intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
The intro was like my favorite part. Yeah.
The destruction of Krypton.
For me, I remember I saw it and I was like, oh, I don't know where I was in my head at the time, but it didn't just stick with me. I kind of just saw it once and kind of forgot about it. And then it wasn't like years later, like all these other DC movies are coming out. I'm like, I guess I should try and watch Man of Steel again. I went back and told him like, I actually really like this movie.
Yeah.
The score, the Russell Crowe as L, and I just really enjoyed it. And a matter of fact, like I watched it today, I was like, maybe I was just in the mood for it or whatever. So I was like, I randomly watched it today. I saw it again and I still enjoyed it. I had a great time.
I've only watched it since it came in movie theaters. I haven't watched it since then.
I watched it last year during the pandemic and I enjoyed it. I actually watched the Snyder movies. I enjoyed Man of Steel. That was basically my review of the Snyder movies.
It's okay. It was good. Like
yeah. But then came Batman versus Superman.
The first time, like, there was a lot of hype for this movie, right?
I don't
know, man.
Yeah, I remember going in knowing it was gonna be bad. Like, I only went to see it with my wife. That's it, and it was on a whim. I think I got my tickets at the last minute. Like, hey, we're not doing anything, and this is actually happening. Let's go watch it.
I think it was. I don't think there was. I didn't have as much hype for it because like Civil War was, I think, coming out around the same time.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the same year, and it must have been like split by a couple of months, I believe.
I just remember seeing, once I heard the news that Ben Affleck was going to be playing Batman, I was like, okay.
I kind of had the same reaction.
I'm not a fan of this. He was already Daredevil. I am not a fan of actors crossing over.
I think I had already gotten over it with Cap.
So you just hate Cap, yeah?
Who? What?
Chris Evans, Human Torch.
Yes, I hate that, but I
just can't.
Yes, I hate it, but also I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's Fantastic Four.
Did he have to earn? Did he have to like?
He earned it. Yeah, he had to earn it because at first I wasn't a big fan of Captain America or I'm sorry, not Winter Soldier. First Avenger.
So you're a big. Oh, I was gonna say you're not a First Avenger fan.
I am not a first. I mean, I wasn't. I mean, it was okay when it came out, right?
You didn't like love it. You weren't head over heels.
I think what happened was that I had a conversation on Facebook with a friend, and she was saying that First Avengers was better than The Dark Knight.
Who is this?
You're no longer friends.
Yeah. So I was like, what? And I think that's what kind of ruined it for me. But then Winter Soldier and Civil War, I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
you won me over.
Let's give credit where credit's due. First Avenger has this weird like following, like people who like love First Avenger. Have you come across this?
Yeah.
I came across it.
One of my best friends.
Yeah.
He's our one of our correspondents.
Yeah.
He'll be on the show soon, but his name's Alec, and he loves it. Cap is like his favorite superhero.
My wife loves First Avenger. Like, she's like, yeah, I like all the espionage stuff. Like, obviously, she likes the later, but she's like, nah, but when it's actually like in World War II, that's when it's good. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy. I was like, this is cool. I like the video game though. The video game was fun.
Yeah, well, that wasn't a good game either, but I did enjoy it. Also, I remember it was like Joe Johnston is the director, and he came on like really late in development.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was a big Rocketeer fan growing up. So I remember really liking the film. I was like, yeah, the Rocketeer has that kind of the same vibe. So I felt like I liked it more than most people when it came out. And then I started meeting all these people who like loved it. I was like, let's like slow down. Like,
yes, that's what happened. I liked it. And then my friend made that comment, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, I like the Rocketeer, but it isn't like Star Wars. Like,
so all this just to say that you didn't like Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
I did not like Ben Affleck as.
I love that, Joel. You just came back. I think you just reminded yourself that you were talking about.
I do not like Ben Affleck. I didn't like him as Daredevil. At the time, it's all I had.
I'm not the bad guy, kid.
The blonde lawyer from Hell's Kitchen.
I don't believe that's a Ben Affleck line, but yeah.
I just love that line so much. It's the greatest. If there's one quotable line in that movie, it's this.
What about what I just said? That was another line.
I know, but the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen.
Okay, yeah.
Just
for the record, Link just blurts that out at random like social settings. Like we'll be like at a wedding,
a funeral,
like a business meeting.
Yeah,
He'll just be like
meeting the president, and I'll say it.
Oh.
Obama was confused when we met him.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
You met him, didn't you? That's crazy.
Yeah. That one time. But I'm not a fan of Ben Affleck as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wasn't interested when the movie came out. I'm like, okay, this doesn't grab. I watched the trailers. This didn't grab my attention, right? We're coming off of the Dark Knight trilogy high to this, and I'm like, okay.
I don't still think I'm not off that high. To be honest,
I don't think enough time had passed, anyways.
Right, that's true.
And see, between the Dark Knight now Edward Patterson's Batman.
Edward Patterson.
That's what I call Edward Patterson's Batman.
Right.
I feel like enough
it's been
time
like 2 decades.
Both names are wrong.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Robert Pattinson.
Edward Pattinson.
Okay.
I feel like
At least
enough
the last
time
name's
has
right.
passed by. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's good. That's good time.
Mm-hmm.
So in between, I don't count that.
Okay. I got what I think is a hot take. Like for myself, it's not a hot take out there in the world, though. I don't think Ben Affleck's that bad as Batman.
I think he's fine.
I think he's fine. Yeah. I think I went into it like this is the worst choice ever because I was not a fan of Ben Affleck's acting. I think he's a good writer. I think he's a great director. And like I enjoy lots of Ben Affleck movies, but not particularly because of Ben Affleck. So, and Batman is like sacred. Batman is the one.
Batman is sacred for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like you got to really think.
It was big shoes to fill coming off the
Dark Knight.
the
Yeah.
huge the whole.
Well,
the huge-
especially too, because not just were those movies great, but for me, Christian Bale was a dream cast. Like, I don't know when I got this idea that Christian Bale should be Batman, but it was somewhere around like maybe it was during the period where they weren't making Batman movies at all, or maybe it was as early as like George Clooney.
Funny little side story. We had all watched Batman Begins together
Mhm.
when it came out in theaters, and as the credits were like before the movie ended, I was just like, "Man, Tom Cruise did a really good job as Batman." And everyone was confused. They were like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Yeah, Tom Cruise, like the Mission Impossible guy." And they're like, "That was Christian
You mean
Bale.
the guy who played Iron Man?
That was Christian Bale." I don't think that came out yet, right?
Yeah, I remember that. That was hilarious.
And then they're like, "That was Christian Bale." And I'm like, "No, it's not." Like I was ready to die on that hill. And then I saw the credits and it said Christian Bale. I'm like,
Tom Cruise changed his name?
"Oh, I guess." But it also introduced. I didn't really hadn't seen. I don't know. I'd seen what was the Reign of Fire?
Yeah.
But I didn't even know that was Christian Bale. I didn't know who he was. I just thought it was some actor.
You've actually seen Reign of Fire?
No, I actually haven't.
What? Yeah, Matthew McConaughey, Christian Bale.
That movie.
Dragons?
That movie's not good,
It's
right?
not good.
Okay, just making sure.
That was Batman Begins was my first the first time I ever saw Christian Bale on TV.
I mean, that's how I knew who he was, and
So I'm
that
like, who-
introduced me.
Oh, you didn't grow up with American Psycho.
I mean, I was
Which is
Yeah,
a which
well, I was like 6.
I was
so
I was like 10. What am I?
Well, how old were you when Batman Begins came out?
that was it 2005.
2005.
Like 5 years ago?
I was probably like 8 or 9.
I was 8.
You were 8?
No, I was 12. I was 12. I was 12.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay. Oh, because that
was
makes
like- I
sense.
was like
Yeah,
9.
you probably should have seen American
Yeah.
Psycho at that point.
Yeah, we shouldn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of other things that I probably shouldn't be watching at that time, but
Yeah.
I did.
He hadn't done Terminator yet, right? That would be after.
Yeah, that was 2009, I think.
Okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so we can talk about the Dark Knight movies. We can talk about Reign of Fire. We can talk about Daredevil and Captain America. But eventually we have to actually talk about Batman versus Superman.
I think it's my subconscious like trying to avoid it as much
it
as
definitely
possible.
is.
So yeah, so because I watched the trailer and because I wasn't a fan of Ben Affleck, I didn't watch the movies until what year did the movie? I watched it in 2018.
16 is when it came out.
I waited 2 years to watch the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I saw it opening night.
Yeah,
I didn't plan to, but I
saw it opening night as well. But like, I mean, there was hype for it. I know that there was buzz around it. Obviously, I wasn't.
I remember there being hype that it was bad, that it was really bad.
Really? I thought
Yeah.
people love that movie. Like, weren't like the studio.
The
loved that
studio.
movie.
So that was the hype like months before. Like maybe, I want to say like 3 months, if I'm remembering correctly. Like this movie's amazing. They got standing ovation. But a lot of people raised their eyebrows and they were like, doubt. But early reviews did come out and they were all pretty bad. Like the Metascore was going down like dramatically. So I remember going into it like, how bad can it be? It can't possibly be that bad, right?
Yeah.
Especially coming off Man of Steel, because you think it's gonna be. Remember the pitch for this idea was supposed to be Man of Steel too,
Yeah.
So it just kind of like grew larger than it was ever meant to be.
My other problem too is that I am not. I mean, I love The Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of. I don't want to see an old Batman.
Yeah.
You get me? Unless it's Batman Beyond Batman, like
Yeah.
grumpy old.
Exactly. Like where
boomer
there's another
That-
Batman.
yeah, that's the one I want to watch. I don't want to watch 60-something-year-old Batman who can barely beat that,
And he's
that
like-
mutant gang.
Yeah, and he's like murder Batman.
Yes.
Like, he's doesn't actually rubber bullets, the whole thing and all that, but like he basically takes out guns and shoots people. And I feel like when I grew up, Dark Knight Returns, I'm sorry, it was like an Elseworld,
Yeah.
But then it's like everybody's like, this is Batman. And I'm like, no, the book is beautiful because this isn't what Batman is. So if we throw him in the future and then he has to change his game because he's older, so he has to, adapt. That's
Yeah.
why it's cool. It's like an end of the world story. But then it kind of became like, oh, this is who we want Batman to be. And
I don't like that. I'm not a fan of. I mean, I like it. It's a great story.
yeah.
But I'm not a fan. Personally, I'm not a fan of that Batman.
I don't like really need it like adapted every
Yeah, I don't
like
need it.
15 times.
Yeah. Also, I'm not a fan of the fat Batman symbol.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Oh.
So that's like everything about the movie was like, I'm not a
Well,
fan of this.
that's
I'm not a
because the
fan
thing
of
is that like Frank Miller's art style is so Frank Miller, and like I appreciate
I
I appreciate even adapting it. I appreciate the thought that goes into it, but I don't think it's really like it gets lost in translation, I think.
Yeah. Was that Frank Miller or was that Tim?
No, it was Frank Miller. He draws the book. He draws the book and writes the book.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because I like his Daredevil run and his Daredevil art, but this one I was like,
well, that's way different though, like because that's like Daredevil's like the 70s and Dark Knight Returns is the 80s. So and he changes. He gets like grittier. He gets like a grittier style. His Daredevil stuff is like very more traditional comic book style, and it was almost like he came into his style with Dark Knight Rises, and then he just starts like drawing crappy pretty much after that. Because it's like it's such a good style, but sometimes it's like he doesn't even try or finish the pages. I don't know. Like Strikes Again, you can see it where it's like it's drawn the same way, but it's like he didn't really like go over it.
Referring to which one?
Dark Knight Strikes Again is a sequel to Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's not
was it like is it about the underground army he built with children?
Yeah.
No. That's okay. I've never read that.
You've never read it?
But I'm interested.
You have to read it. It's not even that long of a read. You should
I'm
go
excited.
anyway. Yeah.
Also, they kill Alfred.
Spoilers, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alfred's like one of my favorites.
I mean, he had to die. If Batman's like 60 or 70, like, I mean, Alfred has to die, man. Like,
no, Alfred is forever.
Okay. He outlives Batman.
Pennyworth forever.
Pennyworth forever. You know what? I'll watch that movie.
There's a show.
It's a show.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there's a Pennyworth show, and it's very popular, actually. They say it's good.
Is it good?
And the actor said that he said Alfred could take Bruce.
Well, I mean, yeah, because Bruce is like 8. Of course, Alfred.
No. No, him and like who would win a fight, Alfred or Batman?
Okay.
Okay, well,
we'll see.
Cockney Alfred? Or?
He's not Cockney Alfred. No, that's what's the name of that show?
Cockney Alfred.
Beware the Batman.
I can believe that.
So, yeah, you should check it out. I mean, I guess we should all check it out because I've heard it's good. It's on Epix, which no one has, but I think that they put it on HBO Max or it's coming to HBO Max, or
the show?
Yeah. Pennyworth.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the graphic novel.
No.
Sequel.
Pennyworth. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So back to
Batman versus Superman.
So that's why it took me a good while to watch it because I'm okay. I'm not a fan of many things.
Yeah.
It's not a must see for me.
Yeah.
But then when you guys told me how much you guys didn't like it, I'm like, okay, I was right. It's not something I'm gonna enjoy. So I didn't have to watch it immediately.
Was the first time you saw it when we watched it together at home the director's cut?
No, the first time I was by myself.
Oh, okay.
And a female friend who I was interested in at the time told me, you should watch it because it's terrible.
Should I be worried that you paused to think of how to phrase that? Or?
Yeah. Someone I was interested told me, like, it's terrible. You should watch it. And I thought, okay, I'll only watch it so I can talk to you about it. And that's the only reason why I watched it. Thank you, Layla.
Oh, wow. We get a name and everything.
For ruining...
Name drop.
For ruining Batman for me.
I don't think she ruined it.
Yeah. It's not her fault. She didn't make the movie.
Honestly, I wasn't super excited for it because, I mean, Zack Snyder was doing it. And I'm honestly, like, I really wasn't a huge fan at the time.
It had a lot of things going against it, I think. I mean,
yeah.
Are we going to talk about Luther? Are we...
Oh, my God. I forgot. That's the thing. I feel like he tries to make these choices that may be different, or like he has just a creative vision, and I just don't think it pans out. Like the casting, I think they were going to get like Bryan Cranston to play Luther.
Yes, I remember that.
That would have been good.
That would have been brilliant.
And I would have been like, man, that's actually a good. And then he's like, who was it?
Meth making.
Jesse Eisenberg went to go like he went for another part.
He went for Joker, I believe.
Yeah,
that would have been better.
And Zack Snyder just had the brilliant idea. It was like, let's make this guy Luther.
Also, why was he going for Joker? Like, Joker's not even in the movie.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised if he was gonna insert like another nightmare sequence where Joker's actually in it.
Wait, so he didn't get the part, but then you're not good enough for Joker. Also, Joker's not in the movie now.
It's basically, I think, 'cause I read it somewhere, like how he says it. He's like, hey, like I think because they weren't gonna move forward with that in that film. And he was just like, but like.
Oh, so it's not that he didn't get the part. It was just like, we want you, but we're not doing Joker now. So
yeah, he's like, how about you read in for Luther? And I mean,
that's good though because we got Jared Leto instead, and I guess we'll talk about that. later.
How do you feel about having a younger Luthor than?
I don't think he is younger. I think they're like the same age.
They're the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse
Maybe
Eisenberg is just
maybe because I know Jesse Eisenberg is younger.
Yeah.
He looks younger than
Right.
Henry.
But Henry Cavill's supposed to be very young. He's just coming from Smallville. He's just getting his first job and
That's
on the
that's
Bugle.
late. That's early 20s.
Yeah, he's
he's like 35.
yeah.
Wait, is it early 20s Superman or is it 35 Superman?
Because in Man of Steel, he's like, "Oh, I've been on this earth for 32
32
years.
years. Yeah, I remember that's.
Oh, because we needed the Jesus
Jesus.
the Christ
Jesus,
parallel.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he has to
But-
follow. He has to follow that spaceship.
But I
That
mean-
just- but
He waited 33 years to get a real job. Like
maybe he was a carpenter.
No, he was just. That's basically what it was.
carpentry is a real job.
Yeah,
dude.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was just saving people off the coast, like in shipwrecks and stuff like that. And he had jobs.
He's a carpenter.
He worked at a bar.
Yeah, but this guy, I assume, has like a college education, right?
Isn't he a
Because he gets a job at like the biggest,
Daily Bugle? Or?
yeah, newspaper.
I
Like,
think he had an in with Lois. So
Is it Daily Bugle or is that?
no,
maybe-
that's Spider Man.
Yeah.
It's a Daily Planet, which I've actually been to
what? Where?
in New York. The one from the only movies that matter, which are the Richard Donner films.
I didn't know they had that.
Yeah, The Bugle and The Planet.
Okay, so then Jesse Eisenberg is the same age as so he's like 30 something as well in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Luther is 30 something in this movie.
Yeah.
Okay. Oof. Okay, makes sense.
And Luther's kind of a late bloomer too, if you think about it.
He looks like a late bloomer.
Yeah.
But then I wonder, would Bryan Cranston would he have been too old to play Luther then?
You know, not for me, because all right, let's be honest. These characters have so many depictions over the years,
Yeah.
and like Eisenberg is not different than like the curly red-headed Luther from The Adventures of Superboy that kind of defined Luther for a whole generation. Though, I mean, not much different than the one on Smallville that defined it for another generation. But for me, Luther's old. Luther's either Gene Hackman, which is actually my secondary type, like archetype for Luther. But for me, Luther's jacked. He's like middle-aged and jacked.
Yeah, for me Luther is this from the Superman animated.
Yeah, that's what
my
Luther is to
Luther.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was the Luther in the comics for me at the time, too.
Because Luther's like a specimen, right?
Yeah.
Like he's physically gifted, but he's also like a genius.
Yeah, it's like Crisis on Infinite Earths on, like the 80s, 90s Luther. That's Luther to me.
And like he's very good at giving speeches. He's very confident.
Yeah, the Luther that runs for president. That's my
Yeah.
And then in this one, he's like can barely structure a sentence. He can barely
socially
string a
awkward
sentence
Luther,
together.
right?
Yeah, I'm not. That's not who
Like that
Luther
whole-
should be.
Yeah,
like that
no.
whole like when he's giving that speech and he's just rambling on and like forgets where he is mid sentence, and I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah, there was definitely choices made.
I'm not. I
With
don't
Luther.
remember this movie at all.
I think that's
So we're doing this, the rewatch.
no. I'm.
Doomsday. What about Doomsday?
Oh, okay. Wait, one thing before we get to that. The trailer, I think there's a second trailer that they dropped.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman's in it. They just
Yeah,
at the
that
end.
was a misstep. That Wonder Woman was probably the best part of the movie, I think.
Yeah.
But they really should have like held that card close to the chest.
because she's
Dark
not
Knight reference.
because she's not even like Wonder Woman when she gets introduced in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
she's just Diana, but we
Mhm.
don't really know that.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I don't remember this at all.
So we could have been like, "Oh, Diana's in the movie. This is setting up," and then she's actually Wonder Woman.
that would have been really cool.
Yeah,
my
that
opinion.
wouldn't- It would have been like when all the Shazam kids show up at the end of Shazam. I was like, I didn't expect that at all in the first movie.
And then Luther somehow finds the way to make a Kryptonian monster.
Yeah, because of the spaceship or something or other. Yeah,
Just Krypton for dummies in there.
yeah, pretty much. It was like, "Oh, hey, Kal-El," and he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'm Kal-El, I guess."
Yeah, I'm just gonna take this guy's fingerprints and just insert myself.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I'm sure it's like smarter than what we're saying, but it's basically that's what happened.
Like him like caressing Zod. So weird.
I don't remember this movie at all.
That's like okay. Sometimes
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
I think this is better.
You've seen this what twice?
Once.
He's only seen it once.
You haven't seen the
I
director's
don't
cut
think
with
he's
us?
seen the director's
No.
cut.
Oh, we're definitely doing the
Yeah, but we
rewatch.
got tricked into watching.
Look
the
what you
director's
did,
cut.
Layla. I can't contribute to this
Layla.
podcast because I don't know what happened.
No,
in
I like
movie.
this because then you can hear us explaining, and then you can be like, "I never want to watch this."
No, but he's gone to him.
No,
We're
no.
gonna make it.
You know what I've been? You guys were talking and I was spacey now. You know what I was thinking of?
What?
How good was the Smallville intro song?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I never really watched Smallville.
Me. The song was so good.
That song was really good. Also, I saw the fandom panel for that. Bro,
So Doomsday. I'm a big fan of Doomsday. This is like an iconic story for me. I was.
Wait, is Doomsday in this movie? When is Doomsday in this movie?
Yeah, he's like the main. He's like the third act battle.
Yeah. So Batman versus Superman, they fight for like 10 minutes, and it sucks, and then the whole Martha thing happens.
They fight for 10 minutes, like actual action sequence. So you're saying because the whole movie's them like bickering, right?
Yeah, but like they actually have like a fight,
Yeah.
and then they say Martha, and then they're best friends. And
You remember that, right? At least the memes.
Yeah,
You
I remember that because that's
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember that, but I know that's
like Batman's about to like stab him with the spear,
Javelin.
Dang. Do not. I guess I should rewatch. No, I don't want.
Yeah, we're doing this. This is happening. So basically, Luthor creates Doomsday like in the spaceship by like putting Zod's body in water and cutting himself because reasons. I really don't know how it works, but
I don't know. It's Luthor. He's a genius.
But it's basically Doomsday is basically like a cave troll from the Hobbit movies. Is that
on steroids? Yeah,
that's appropriate,
no,
right?
That is.
Yeah, like
That's
the
valid.
CG is like almost exactly like the cave trolls from the Hobbit movies.
Mm.
Yeah, and he doesn't have a personality or anything like that. And
Okay.
Yeah, actually, no. I'm thinking of the face. It literally is. Yeah, it's the one from Lord of the Rings. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
mm-hmm.
And then they fight.
The Urukai?
No.
No, the troll.
Remember that, like in the extended cuts for Lord of the Rings, like you see the statues of the ones.
Oh,
that he froze.
yes.
And then when you go in the Hobbit movies,
Hobbit
we
movies,
actually
you
see
see
how
that. Yeah,
they
yeah,
froze
they
them. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly.
they
what
got
it.
it. They were in the sun.
Yeah,
They were
There isn't one in Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see them in Fellowship. Yeah.
you see them, and they have the same models too, and everything.
Yeah.
Like they use those models to CGI them.
I think that troll had more personality than Doomsday.
Yeah, because they talk and stuff, and Doomsday doesn't. He just grunts and like, just like.
That's crazy. No, but was it? And then Batman's kind of like useless in that fight.
Yeah, he's just kind of like rolling, getting
He's
into a ship,
surviving.
crashing
Surviving.
it. Yeah,
Because he's Dark Knight.
I will say that
Returns Batman.
I will
He's
say that-
old.
That scene where he's saving Superman's mom, like in the warehouse,
yeah,
where he's like beating the crap out of people.
sure.
I thought that was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was brutal because he murders like almost all of those guys.
Yeah, but at that point, like you kind of.
No, I will never get over. I will never get over Batman murdering people. Like I was still mad at that point. Like I'm mad when he shoots the tank, and then that guy blows up. Like that's the one he does to save Martha, and yeah, I was still mad.
No, I mean when he's trying to get when he's trying to get the kryptonite and
Yeah.
he just runs that guy, or he runs over that guy's face in
Yeah.
the car.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, yeah, he's murdering people, and then what the hell was that nightmare sequence, man?
Yeah. And then, well, at least the nightmare sequence is in a nightmare, though. Link's face right now is like just complete
have
blank.
no idea
You
what's
remember when like Batman picks up a rifle and just starts like picking people off?
I don't remember this movie at all.
Yeah, it
I was
was-
texting
it was
and read. I was busting to move and watching this movie.
It was
did not work out.
foreshadowing Fortnite, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So,
But no,
is Snyder the creator of
no,
the Fortnite
but
universe?
Fortnite has like a canon reason. Like Batman can't remember who he is on the island. You lose your memory, and like there's just guns strewn everywhere, right? And also you're like your aggression is up. Like the island changes who you are. So they actually bothered to explain it. There's no explanation here.
There really is no explanation.
There's not even like a story arc. Like, oh, he's lost his like code. Like he just never had it.
No, I think there's like a brief conversation with Alfred where he's just like, oh, like this is the way we do things. Like, oh, we got to change the way we do things, blah, blah, blah. And that's it.
Okay.
Who plays Alfred?
Jeremy
Irons, and he's great. He's a great choice.
He is great.
Yeah. He doesn't do much though, I think. And
That's the problem with the movie. Not enough Alfred.
yeah.
That's why I love the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, Alfred just
Get into
literally...
Alfred.
No, Alfred is literally just there to remind Bruce that he's single and he should get married.
Oh, so he's my mom.
That was good. That was a good one.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can move on from Batman versus Superman. I'm not sure that we illuminated anything except for the fact that we did not enjoy Batman versus Superman.
Or remember it.
I just think, I don't know, man. I think he doesn't get, especially Superman. He doesn't get him right either, man.
yeah, and he turned so dark from one movie to the other one.
Oh, like even like Man of Steel was kind of pushing it, but like he's finding himself.
It was gritty, but still optimistic.
yeah, but like by
He kills Zod, but he's like sad about it at least.
By Batman vs Superman, he should like be coming into his own. He should be becoming that figure that
Mhm.
inspires hope. But he's like second guessing himself every 5 seconds. He's super like brooding all the time. I'm just like,
And also, I don't know why this is so offensive to me. Not that like it's a reflection of like a moral system or values or anything, but just Superman specifically. Like, I remember he gets in the tub with Lois, like in a place in their relationship where they're not married yet, and I'm like, that's just Superman. I always think should be old fashioned and traditional, no matter where you like, wherever you like lie in how you feel about those things in your own. Like, Superman should really prescribe to like a really old standard in my mind.
Like Captain America.
Yeah, exactly. But even more egregious, he does it with his shoes on, which is super gross.
That's
And
so
like that's
inconsiderate.
even less. Yeah, that's even less. She's in that tub bathing, and he just walks into it. I don't
remember the scene, but you know what I do remember? I know I talked bad about Man of Steel, but one thing I really appreciate about Man of Steel is Henry Cavill's chest hair. I really like. That was a good take on Superman.
I remember his shoulders and his chest being so wide that I was like, he's giving Hugh Jackman a run for his money.
His chest, I was impressed.
Yeah.
I really like that.
He got really big for that.
And if he gets in the hot tub with his shoes on and with that,
No, he has his clothes on.
Oh, okay. Oh, they just ruined that scene then. What the heck?
Yeah, she's
this guy does not get Superman.
that's your tipping point.
All right. From there, we move on to
Wonder Woman. He produces Wonder Woman. Does that make it technically part of the Snyderverse?
we'll add it in because I need something positive to say about this guy.
Gal Gadot. Perfection.
I think it caught me by surprise, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
didn't expect anything.
Well,
from
because I enjoyed her
him.
in Batman vs Superman, but it's like the same thing happens with Batman vs Superman.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder's attached to it. I really just did not pay attention to the fact that Patty Jenkins was attached to it.
What had Patty Jenkins done at that point?
Hurt Locker? Oh, no. I'm thinking that's this guy's ex-wife.
Cameron's, right?
Yeah.
Jeff Cameron.
James Cameron.
What's her name?
Not
Point Break. That's what I know. She directed Point Break.
Academy Award winning.
The original Point
Okay.
Break. There is no new one. John Moxley's book told me there's no new Point Break.
Wait, so what movie does she do before? She does something, and that's why they give her.
I remember that she was attached to Thor: The Dark World, right? And then they removed her from it.
Yeah.
And that was like a big controversy, and
that's
Natalie
why
Portman
Natalie
left.
Portman
yeah.
left. Yeah. Okay.
So she ends up picking up Wonder Woman, and she does a great job, basically.
Maybe because my expectations were low, and I was really impressed.
Yeah, because Wonder Woman itself is not a great movie, but it's a good movie. I think it's a really good movie. And to me, it's kind of like my Captain America: First Avenger.
Yeah.
Like where like I estimate it better than maybe it really is, but it's just that kind of, it has those moments too where like it kind of has those like kitschy World War tone-ish, but it works.
Also, I like that it has British Pam from The Office. British Office Pam. Didn't know her.
What role does she have?
She's her friend.
Wonder Woman has a friend?
Yeah, remember that British lady that's trying to help her?
No,
The
I
big
don't.
lady.
I just remember her running and gunning with like
she's
the
Pam-
international.
Oh, and Wonder Woman. I don't know why I was
Wonder-
thinking Darth Thor.
In Wonder Woman, she's Pam from.
I know what you're talking
She's the equivalent of Pam. I don't even know if they have the same name, but she's the equivalent of Pam.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I just
She's
can't
also in
picture her in
Shaun of the
Wonder
Dead.
Woman. Yeah, I know. I can't picture her in Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
though.
she's like
because she doesn't look like herself.
She helps her like with the dresses and like dressing her like acclimated.
and that stuff was so good because that I would have never thought about doing stuff like that, like her
really enjoyed that
acclimating
one.
to
Yeah.
the world.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Because Wonder Woman is so BA. She's such a warrior. Like the Wonder Woman that I grew up with, because it's so late in the character's development, that to go back to this period and see like a young, youthful, exuberant, like naive, like learning the ways of the world.
I like that take.
Yeah, I really like
that was
it.
really great.
Yeah.
Really
Gave it heart.
innocent.
Yeah, give it heart. Yeah, because sometimes she can come off as such a cold character, especially in like the generation that we grew up in.
But even then, Gal Gadot does not seem. She's like she gives like a warm presence to Wonder Woman, like
Yeah.
very welcoming
And emotional, like in a positive way.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I liked about Wonder Woman 1984. You see, like she is warm to everyone. Everyone's attracted to her.
Yeah, Yeah, the character is at least consistent.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about it
I
before
think
though.
I think she does a great job. Like I think she does a great job.
I think she does a great job. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know what? Wonder Woman, Batman versus Superman, even Wonder Woman 84, Gal Gadot does a great job.
Yeah.
She is Wonder Woman.
In Justice League
Yeah,
too.
she is Wonder Woman.
Is she in Justice League? Or how much time does she have in the Justice?
So
I can't remember
Are we
anything
moving
like
on to
specifically
Justice
she
League
does.
now?
Yeah, we love Wonder Woman. Zack Snyder didn't direct it. Moving on to Zack's. Oh well, which Justice League are we moving on to?
And that's the thing.
We'll do the first one.
The first one,
Okay.
I didn't watch the first one.
Like you've never seen it? You haven't seen it to this day?
You know that. You know I haven't watched it.
Okay.
The Snyder Cut was my first time watching Justice League.
Wow. I forgot.
What an experience.
So
I know
And it's
this,
because-
but I just can't fathom it.
it's because of
Batman versus Superman.
Batman vs Superman. Like, why would I watch this? Why would I spend money on?
Well, because
this?
it was Joss Whedon, though.
No, I think it
Yeah,
also
it's too much
was.
of a mess.
I think he probably would have come probably would have watched it if we were all together. At the time,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
we would
No,
do-
for
I was
sure.
I was in California.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it by myself.
I think
I just can't imagine a world where they make a movie with, like, Batman and Superman and The Flash and Wonder Woman, and I don't watch it. Like, even if I knew it was the worst thing in the world. Like, I knew Green Lantern was bad when I went to go see it, but I still watched it.
I didn't watch it in theaters. I watched it at home.
You watched it in theaters.
Yeah, we did. That's like a whole other...
Yeah.
Come on, Warner Brothers, get your act together.
We'll see. We'll see what the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't watch the original Justice League.
Mhm.
I had no intentions of ever watching
Justice League.
That was my intention to never watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, rumors about a 4-hour Snyderverse started picking up, and I was like, ooh, this sounds terrible.
You really had me there.
Yeah.
Ooh, this I might watch, because I knew I was going to watch it with you guys, and I thought, okay, this is going to be an experience.
Mm-hmm. A funny story. I was on vacation in North Carolina, and I drove like 13 hours straight to get here to watch it on opening night, Snyder Cut. So it was actually the night before, and I was supposed to wake up in the morning and leave in the morning, and then a big storm passed, and then my mom was like, because we were staying at my mom's house in North Carolina, and she's like, "You're not gonna be able to leave tomorrow morning because there's a big storm coming in the morning." And I got up in the middle of the night, like literally at midnight, just like packed a sandwich, a huge jar of like black coffee, and I'm like, "We're going now," and we're driving 13 hours straight to get home in time to sleep for a couple of hours and then wake up and watch Justice League for a movie that I knew was gonna be bad, like terribly bad, but it was an event.
It was so strange because the movie was coming out and like there was someone that one had hype. Like,
Oh yeah, full disclosure, we're just operating under the assumption that it's gonna be bad, but like everyone thought it was gonna be great.
Everyone thought, a lot of
people
no,
think
a
it's
lot of
great.
people think it's great.
Yeah, a lot of people still think it's great. So.
And a lot of people were defending the whole Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Because, like, during that time, Joss Whedon started to get canceled, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, oh, it was never the original vision of
Right.
the director, and people wanted to watch his original vision.
Right.
They wanted to see what he created.
Which I can totally respect that, by the way. I can totally respect wanting to see the original creative vision. Also, Snyder had sympathy, because of his real life, which is
situation, yeah.
Yeah, which is completely understandable, and Whedon didn't because of his real life situation, which is completely understandable. So like all that makes sense on paper.
Yeah.
But
even then, I knew what it was going to be.
mm-hmm.
And that's why I still wasn't excited for it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not him, so I can't say. But like, I also feel like when you get to finish something after the fact, is it the original? Like,
Right,
That's
because it's
cheating,
like,
man.
yeah,
is it the original? Like, you can kind of like look and see what people didn't like really like or what
And
didn't
fix
grab,
it,
and
yeah.
then try and
Right.
like tweak it.
yeah,
And it's hard for me to think that everything that we saw was what he planned.
what
to
would
do.
have been in the movie.
And
Yeah,
it's like it's just difficult for me to accept that.
well, I have a few gripes. Number one, I know he didn't watch it, which I respect. I know he didn't watch the Joss Whedon cut of Justice League, so I can respect that. He's leaving in things he doesn't know what was there and what was not there, but he must have gotten some feedback about what was bad. Like, even if it was just the memes, it was inescapable. He must know some things that people didn't like and made sure that they stay on the cutting room floor. So he has this like hindsight that is unfair. Number two, there's a bunch of stuff that, okay, first of all, the movie wasn't going to be 4 hours. Like, There's no way Justice League was gonna come out in theaters for 4 hours, so it couldn't have possibly been that.
I'm sure
movie.
he was adding stuff in because he didn't think it was gonna like continue, so he was just throwing everything that he originally, I guess, saw.
Yeah, and the other thing is too that Justice League was supposed to be part one of two movies.
Yeah,
you know, and that was the movie that Snyder was working on. But once he came to do the Snyder Cut, he knew this was all, so he crammed as much stuff as he could. Yeah, and he, you know, he still set up for a sequel, but I don't know. For example, I don't know how much Darkseid, if any, was gonna be
for real
in this movie originally. And there's like a lot of Darkseid in this movie, in my opinion. You know,
there's a lot of Darkseid forgetting where he left Earth, which I did not understand.
It's like a dog trying to find his bones.
He's just like, I can't remember where I put it.
Okay, let's start with that. So he replaces the historical scene, which is probably one of the best parts of either cut of the movie, right? The historical scene with the lanterns and the Amazons. But he replaces Steppenwolf with Darkseid, which I don't know if that was his original vision. It sure doesn't feel like it. But at the same time, if it was, it's a bad choice because Darkseid gets punked out. Like, if he's your big bad for the next movie, like, why are you defeating him, like, halfway through this movie, even though it's a flashback, you know? And it's not a very terribly, like, it wasn't a very terribly difficult task. Like, he just lost in a war.
I think the part that I got, like, really excited was when we see that portal open to Apocalypse.
Uh-huh.
And we see, like, his army, and I'm like, we're not about to get this, right? Like, this isn't about to happen, right? We're not going to see this. Like, it was showing me something. I was like, this is awesome. And then I was like, yeah, no, sorry. I also thought that the scene with the Flash, and him going back, I thought that was really cool until he opens his mouth and starts talking.
Jesse Eisenberg Flash?
No, Ezra Miller.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of Jesse Eisenberg.
The casting equivalent.
Yeah. Because in my mind, Flash should not be scrawny.
Yeah.
As well.
I love that people love the flashback scene. Some people love it with the exception of the talking. I don't know. I'm just kind of over Zack Snyder's slow motion. Can we talk about the slow motion?
Okay, the movie was 4 hours because of the slow motion.
You could literally cut it down. Like, let's be honest, like maybe like 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
scenes that linger too long, scenes that are in slow motion, like entire sequences.
Barry putting a hot dog in his pocket to save it for later.
Aquaman taking off his shirt multiple times. That gets
the singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Ancient Lamentations every time Wonder Woman's on.
Yeah.
There's just a lot. There's a lot going on.
It was just, I don't know.
It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
I mean, it was a kid at a toy store, I guess, for Zack Snyder.
I also feel like he was trying to make all the footage they did work. Like, I feel like he would have, if he was making a regular theatrical movie, he would have cut a bunch of stuff. But he knew he had 4 hours. He thought it was going to be a series. That's another gripe. That they announced it as an episodic series and then turned it into a movie. That tells me that you didn't have a vision for the project.
And that's how I feel about the DCU. I feel like they don't have a vision.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think that the studio, like Warner Brothers, they put someone in charge. It wasn't super popular. Let's change things around. And we keep I don't know. I just feel like they did not have a cohesive structure to where they wanted to go. And where, like, who they wanted to be, like, as a cinematic universe.
Do you think they have that now?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think that they're coming up with their unique ideas. I don't think they need to build a cinematic universe. I think that they can. Yeah. I think they can do their individual.
They're kind of doing like an Elseworlds take. Like, hey, you tell the stories that you want to tell.
Which I think is fine.
I think it's good too.
I don't think that's the thing.
The only part that's weird is that this universe continues.
That is true. I personally feel like they were trying to play catch up.
Mm-hmm.
They had a Superman movie straight into a Batman vs Superman movie, which ends up kind of being like a mini Justice League movie with the three of them, and then you have your first Justice League movie
without much introduction.
I don't know. I feel like it just felt rushed, and they were just like, let's just put out as much as we can out there.
Yeah, like if there wouldn't have been like a Cap or a Hulk movie before.
Let's just push out these big event movies.
We also didn't talk about Aquaman.
Or a Thor movie. Yeah, we didn't talk about Aquaman.
Which it happens before this, right?
No.
Before Snyder cut, but not
Aquaman 1?
Oh.
Happens before Justice League.
It happens after Justice League.
It happens after Justice League? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's
because I didn't watch it, so I had to meet.
Well, we were actually confused about that because there's things that happen in Justice League and in Aquaman they don't make sense.
So there's things that happen in Justice League that get referenced in Aquaman. So it clearly takes place after, but there's things that happen in Aquaman that directly contradict what happened in Justice League or that already happened in Justice League. So like, you know how he meets Mera in Aquaman? Yeah, they already know each other in Justice League. But they literally talk about the final battle in Justice League in Aquaman. So the movie clearly already happened. He also has...
You have this continuity error.
Well, the explanation that I got was that James Wan didn't care. He was like, I'm going to make my movie. I'm ignoring... Like, he also didn't watch Justice League. But, like, purposely.
He's like me.
Yeah. He purposely was like, listen, I'm not going to adhere to whatever it is. Because, like, Aquaman is an origin story. He meets Mera. He earns his armor and the trident. But he has a different version of all those things in the final battle. Like, without an explanation. He has armor and a trident in the battle.
So is Aquaman the Tokyo Drift of...
No, it's not possible because they talk about the events of Justice League. Like, because it's still... Because Tokyo Drift, they make it line into the chronology. Like, from
Afterwards,
the get-go. Yeah, from the...
Fast and Furious continuity is apparently better than the DCEU.
And these errors they don't get fixed in the Snyder Cut.
They don't.
If anything, they get exacerbated because she's British in one of the movies. Like, she's British in the Snyder Cut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
she doesn't have,
and then she's not
an
in Aquaman. Yeah. And again, still the events of Justice League are referenced in Aquaman. So this the same continuity.
What?
Error.
And then the end, I guess we're getting towards the end.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a plethora of issues with the film, but the nightmare sequence with Joker...
You know that I get confused between what the nightmare sequences in Justice League are versus the ones in Batman versus Superman. I like...
Batman versus Superman, I think of like just Superman...
all the like anti-Superman visions. I still don't understand some of them.
I never did, so...
Okay.
Are you supposed to?
Perplexed.
Oh, what? I don't. I'm trying to figure. I don't remember. So, him talking about
there's like an execution and there's like parademons.
The one. I mean, the one that I'm talking about is like him
at the end of Snyder.
At the end of the Snyder Cut, where like him and Joker apparently have a past.
I'm not sure that. I think Joker's just riffing. I think he's just making jokes, but I
wouldn't put it past him.
I would. Yeah, I wouldn't. Also, the SpaghettiOs that he has like rubbed all over his mouth. That's just... I kind of feel like Heath Ledger's Joker ruined a lot of stuff for Joker in the sense that like they went off book and it landed.
It worked, and then everyone else...
And it worked, so everyone's like, I'm going to go off book.
And it didn't... It hasn't landed.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, the Glasgow smile that Heath Ledger's Joker, I'll just rub the makeup all over his face and stuff. And I don't, I don't know what the...
Martian Manhunter as well?
Oh, it's supposed to be Green Lantern. Oh,
yeah,
they didn't know who was.
Yeah, you didn't know who. You know that, right? They didn't know who Bruce Wayne was going to be talking to in the scene. Snyder wanted Lantern. The studio said no. They were going back and forth
because they have plans for Lantern.
Yeah, so they had to film the scene. So like Snyder just told Affleck like, these are your lines. Just like, that's why it's so awkward. Like it's like, hey, what's up? Oh yeah, really? Cool. I'd see you around.
I did not know that.
I mean, at least there's character development for Bruce. I mean, at one point he wanted to kill an alien that was just like produced, like just causing havoc.
Yeah, but now he's super chill about it, and like it's just like
one's just in my backyard, just hanging out on my dock, and
look at them.
Also, Bruce having visions doesn't. I don't understand why.
It does not make sense because
Flash tried to communicate with him during Batman versus Superman, but I don't know why he keeps having visions into Justice League.
I also heard that like Snyder wanted to have this plot where Lois and Bruce get together while Clark is dead.
Yes, he did. Yeah, that was.
Why are you so messy?
That was the That would have been the plot of like the Injustice movie. Like that's what happened, like in between the flash forward that we get at the end of
so messy
of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
I don't know.
Also, I feel like he's setting up for a lot of different sequels. Doesn't it feel like he's setting up for that fight against Darkseid which would be like a direct sequel to this movie, but he's also setting up for an Injustice movie.
Yeah, there's like 3 different things.
Yeah, he's bouncing around, and then he inserts that scene with Deathstroke. So he's also setting up the Deathstroke Batman movie, like a grounded.
Well, I guess I guess that was supposed to be part of the Batman movie.
Because that feels like something that like was gonna happen. The Injustice stuff feels like he made that up now. No?
Yeah, he probably played the video game and was just like, man, this seems like a really good idea.
That's another thing. Injustice, like now, that's everywhere, and that like Injustice was a good idea for a video game, and now it's like they're gonna keep adapting it and amalgamating it. This episode's making me sad.
You know what? As much as I don't like Ben Affleck as Batman, I do like Ben Affleck as a writer and director, like you said.
Yeah.
Why don't they give him a Batman movie?
They tried.
That's what
because
he was writing and directing the one where he fights Deathstroke. That's what the scene where like Jesse Eisenberg Luthor returns on the boat and tells Deathstroke, he's Bruce Wayne. And that would have been the setup for their movie. And they didn't. What happened there?
I feel like that's a
I
waste
don't remember
of Ben
like
Affleck.
if Ben Affleck pulled out but he's gonna be in the.
He did pull out, but I think they weren't happy with the script.
He's gonna be in the Flash. Was this also gonna be? There also gonna be a separate Batman film with the Pattinson one?
No, I think that they went with the Pattinson one. Because
So is Patterson?
was Matt Reeves directing the Ben Affleck one, or was it Ben Affleck?
I think Ben Affleck was.
Ben Affleck.
Oh, I think that's what happened. I
what am
think
I saying?
this is what happened, if I'm remembering correctly. Affleck was directing it. When he pulled out, they got Matt Reeves. But for a while there, we weren't sure if he was going to direct that same movie that Affleck was developing.
Yeah.
And then that eventually turned into the Pattinson one, when Affleck backed out. I think also the criticism for Justice League and Batman vs. Superman, I think it got to Ben Affleck.
Yeah, it just made it really unattractive to continue.
Yeah. And I think that now that Zack Snyder's Justice League came out and the fans really liked it, and like we got a couple of good movies under their belt, I think it brought him back into the fold, and money too also.
Yeah, so apparently
And J-Lo.
Maybe this is all.
Maybe J-Lo inspires a Batman movie.
Apparently Ben like once he stepped down, he said like he couldn't crack it, he didn't feel passionate about it.
Yeah.
But later on he like admitted that it was kind of like his issues with alcoholism and stuff like that he was going through at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
That is what you do, my dude. That's what you do.
So that's why he wrote that other movie. What is it? The
Coach one?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was a good movie.
I haven't watched it.
What's it called?
Coach Carter.
That's definitely not it.
The Way
Is
Back.
it The Way? I was gonna say The Way Out. Yeah, The Way Back.
So this is what they should do, man. Ben Affleck, we all know you're a comic book nerd. We all know you read comic books. You're good friends with Kevin Smith.
I mean, was.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, they seem to not really talk that much as far as like they're on friendly terms, but they're not like super close.
Whatever. You're good friends with you are Ben Affleck. You're good friends with Matt.
You are Ben Affleck.
You're good friends with Matt Damon. Write up a Batman movie together with Matt Damon. Get Kevin Smith to help you out. Write a Batman movie.
And everyone
Direct
has
it.
Boston accents.
Oh no, please don't.
That would be amazing.
No. No.
You didn't put the Batmobile in the Smart Park.
No. I don't like this joke. I don't
Yeah.
like where it's
Oh,
going.
you're gonna speak it into existence now.
No.
Well, my friend growing up had this pitch. My friend Socrates wanted a Daredevil Punisher team up movie where Ben Affleck was both parts. And one of them had a Boston accent. Presumably the Punisher, because Daredevil already didn't.
That's what you do, man. You get Ben Affleck. If you're listening to this, I got you. You don't even have to give me producer credits. Get Kevin Smith and get Matt Damon. Write a Batman movie. Play Batman. Let Matt Damon play Robin or Nightwing.
I think he's even too old for Nightwing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
What?
Matt Damon as Nightwing and Batman as... And
It'll be like when Chris O'Donnell was basically
But
Nightwing.
even better. Because it's Matt Damon.
But he was already too old for the part, Chris O'Donnell.
Because it's going to be like Jason Bourne playing Nightwing.
I don't think you've seen Matt Damon recently. He's not exactly Jason Bourne
I'm talking
anymore.
about, I watched We Bought a Zoo.
That
That had to have been like 6
last
years.
year?
What?
Yeah, because it's 2011. Is it not
When
2011?
did this movie come out?
Right now?
What was the last Matt Damon movie I watched?
You haven't seen The Last Duel, man?
He
I
has
haven't
not
seen that
seen. Again, I'm pretty sure they wrote that together. You should probably fact check that.
See, if you wrote that together, you could have had time to write.
Gabriel didn't like the movie. He's the only one who saw it.
Not that I didn't like it.
I didn't.
I think I just had more expectations.
Okay, I didn't say you don't like it, but you didn't particularly like it. Like,
I didn't like his performance. I think is more.
you wouldn't watch it again?
I watch it again.
You'd watch it again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
At home.
Here's what you
I
do.
guess that's fine.
I got you. You know what? Let's fix it. All right, don't get Matt Damon to play Nightwing.
Okay.
Have him help you write the movie though, and then get
You're making this up as you go along.
no. I've told you about this.
Oh, okay.
And then get Adam Driver to play Nightwing.
You're just casting. You're just making this night movie that Gabriel saw.
Yes. I mean, I've already tweeted and said that Nightwing should be played by
He did say that.
Adam Driver,
Okay.
and Timothy Chalamet should play Dick Grayson as Robin.
You mean Tim Drake?
No, Dick Grayson as Robin, and
So-
when he becomes Nightwing, it's like he evolves into.
Wouldn't you want him to be like Tim Drake so he could still stick around?
I can see that,
Yeah.
but he evolves when he
Because
becomes.
then you can only have him for like half a movie.
He did write it.
See, he did write my Batman movie.
Also, Matt Damon's gonna be in the new Thor movie. Just
Matt
I mean,
Damon
he
was
was in
already in
Deadpool.
Thor.
He wasn't. Is he reprising
He's
his role as
reprising-
Loki?
he's reprising his Loki actor role.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
I'm excited.
Thank you, Taika. Thank you so much.
Okay, so today we've talked about everything but the Snyderverse. I feel like we did tangentially.
I think it was good. Like I said, I don't want to be the type of person to bash or like to be negative about a person's work because obviously I know that they worked hard.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And especially the circumstances with him. You get me?
Yeah,
Losing
absolutely.
His child.
So I think a takeaway is like you have to respect that people have their opinions and people like he has a big following. He has big fans that support his work. And I mean, I respect him for making this stuff, for putting it out, for coming back after getting after these films getting so much heat. And, you know, even though I don't agree with his vision, I think it takes a lot to come back after such circumstances and put something out there.
Yeah, and just because we don't like, there's a lot of people who really do, and like, good for them. It honestly, I guess if I could sum it up, I'd rather live in a world where these movies exist than one where they don't.
Then that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Because people would always be like questioning.
Yeah, and then go ahead.
You're done.
Oh, and then also like when I was growing up, we didn't get these movies.
Yeah.
Like we had a couple in the 70s for Superman. We had a couple in the 90s for Batman. There's a huge gap. And that's it. You were never going to imagine like seeing Martian Manhunter or even Wonder Woman. There was the TV show, but like think about it. There was never a Wonder Woman movie for like 50 years. You know? You just didn't imagine the kind of characters that get adapted nowadays, ever seeing them on the screen.
And I mean, besides like all the negative stuff, I thought it was really cool in Justice League to see the Justice League formed on the big screen. I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what was going on, like that was still a big moment for me because I have a huge history like loving these characters, loving this team, and to see it finally on the big screen, I thought it was fantastic.
I also think these mainstream depictions, they help connect a lot of people to these characters. I know it's super easy to explain like some of the more deeper like deeper cut characters or their relationships either to my wife or to my niece or to some of my friends or students. If I have a reference point like, oh, remember in like Thor 3, this guy, he's this guy. Or remember in Guardians 2 or whatever. Yeah. And I think that these movies do that a lot. Like, oh, you like Doomsday? Like, hey, here's this book or watch this cartoon. And they wouldn't have a reference point if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we're searching for the MacGuffin, the motivating factor, the thing that pushes us along. What did we find?
Adam Driver as Nightwing. It's what's giving me life now. That make it happen, Ben Affleck.
I think we find that no matter what the circumstances, no matter what opinions people have of you, I think still being able to persevere and put your vision, your creative vision out there, I think you should do that no matter what people think of you in a sense, because even I'm the person that doesn't agree with that vision. I still support his kind of like his dream, I guess, or like I can tell he's a huge fan
and he's passionate. Yeah,
exactly. And I'm in a sense, I'm kind of proud of him that he can like do this stuff
Mm-hmm.
because like things happen in life, obviously, but the fact that he can still get back into doing what he loves, I think that's very commendable, very respectable, and that's something that I admire. I think.
I also think the uprising, the social media and the fan support to get something like the Snyderverse, like into creation, like that's really consumer power.
Yeah,
That was like
that's
we
us. That was
want,
us. Or-
yeah. Well, it wasn't me,
Not me.
but it
No,
was.
that was you. Link
But it was
confirmed.
definitely a segment of the
Yeah.
fandom, you know, and we need more of that. Like, you know, the consumers speaking with their wallets and having their voices being heard. You know, if it takes getting Zack Snyder's Justice League for that kind of thing to happen, that kind of impact to happen, you know, from this point on, you know, then more power to them.
Yeah, so you know what? I'm gonna use my power as a consumer to make this Adam Driver as Nightwing movie to happen.
You really sold in this, huh?
Well, you know, Warner Brothers just looking for projects. They're making like 152 DC, so you might actually be able to pitch this.
There you go.
For me, this is what I've learned. The stories that we tell, I've said this before, they shape us. We don't always agree with those stories. We don't always relate to those stories. But there's somebody's story out there. And you never know what the catalyst for someone's journey or what the discovery along their way in exploration is going to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't understand, you know, the people around us, and we don't understand their story, but we fight to protect that story. And we stand by and we applaud, you know, the ability to tell these stories, because ultimately we can disagree, but we can see the merit in the experience and in the passion of others. And I think that's what we find in the Snyderverse. So many messages, so many ideas, and they might not be the neatest, but they were told and they were here, and they will stay in the annals of history as a chapter in a long line of historical tellings of these characters. And that's a great accomplishment. Love it or hate it.
That was beautiful.
And on that note, we continue on. Until next time, keep on searching.